Good afternoon, folks. I am Professor Chuck.
And I'm Chris,
With me is Chris, my son, my counterpart, my
business partner.
younger half.
Sure, something like
That's
that.
kind of weird. So we're coming to you live.
Live,
We're
no.
coming to you recorded today. COVID crisis in mind, and I do have to apologize before we get going here. Yes, I can tell these plants are dying, and it's part of the office situation. It's one of the
Moving everyone out of the office and not coming here once a week.
priorities have shifted.
Priorities have shifted.
And that is actually, we didn't plan that transition, but that is today's topic. We're going to talk about self-awareness in a crisis mode, right? So
Yes.
self-awareness for
Yes.
ourselves, self-awareness for you, kind of how that might apply, and then pivoting and shifting priorities that happen when stress happens to an individual, to a relationship, or in this case, to the planet.
Yes.
So self-awareness in crisis.
Be an interesting topic.
Let's talk about some things that have shifted during the course of the crisis. And of course, you guys are all aware of it, but we're going to just kind of put some names on it as we go through. So some things that come to mind for you that have shifted for all of us during this COVID-19 crisis.
I mean, our buying habits, how the utilization of technology, I'm noticing. Obviously, like Amazon is doing so well right now. And why is that? There's more of a trust that's being established with more online orders.
Okay, so yeah, there was a pushback for Amazon growth in certain demographics
Yes.
prior to the crisis. People who were a little less adept at getting into technology now, due to necessity, have embraced
Yes.
and now that you've embraced the necessity of it, maybe they're building habits out of it. So we've got purchasing.
Purchasing habits, yes.
Certain priorities, like things that you take for granted. And I think we're going to come back to this topic again and again, that prior to the crisis, that perhaps you took for granted, that during the crisis, it's become crystal clear this is an important thing. And then thinking forward into the future, how might those priority shifts affect future behaviors? Toilet paper. Right? Before the crisis, nobody was thinking about toilet paper as a priority. It was taken for granted.
Yes.
It's there. It's in bulk. I need it. I go to the store. It's everywhere. What was your first experience to let you know that the toilet paper crisis was here?
Just walking down the empty aisles. For me, I actually got really lucky in timing of my purchase for my last, it was like 8-pack.
Yep.
And after I got the 8-pack, that's when the crisis happened. I'm like, I'm a little bit good for the time being.
Yep.
And I just got lucky.
You were able to weather through it.
But definitely walking down those aisles, those empty aisles, on the signs taped up on it saying, due to large demand.
Per person, that kind of thing.
Or even before then, when it was just empty, it was like, due to large demand, these aisles are empty. And
yeah, it hit home for me. I was in a Target walking through, and I saw that it was empty, and I actually was in need. So I wasn't as lucky as you. And granted, guys, we're talking about toilet paper right now. Not that that is the most important thing of this entire situation, but priorities is the thing, and this kind of helps illustrate that. We are very clear. There are lots of folks who are going through life crisis. The death toll as of today in the United States is over 60,000, over 1 million people affected on the planet. So it might seem petty that we're talking about toilet paper, and we're self-aware. We know that that is a very small portion of this. And we're going to get into some of the heftier topics as we go through this as well. But again, right, that realization. For me, when I was in there, it was enough for me to make a post on LinkedIn.
Yes.
So I took a picture of it, and it wasn't that, hey guys, look, it's empty. For me, it was, holy crap, this is real. This is hitting the supply chain. And to think, for my background with supply chain, over 20 years I've worked in supply chain. I understand the flow of process where it gets from manufacturing to distribution to retail and back to consumer. And that flow, and to think of it being stopped at the retail level, what that meant all the way back through the supply chain as well.
Right.
To me, it was, wow, this is huge, and we haven't seen the end of it, right, from a supply chain standpoint.
There's still like the fruits, vegetables, meats.
Meat's the big one.
Yep.
What have you seen about the meat stuff recently?
Factories either shutting down or employees in those factories who have COVID-19,
Yep.
Therefore shut down the factory.
Right, and I saw that the White House, the administration, they had put into play because of the crisis, kind of that wartime rules that you can go in and get a factory, order them to shift what they're making.
Yeah.
That they're ordering the meat factories to stay open, and that's okay. That makes sense, right? To keep the supply chain moving. But at the same time, you can't order those people who work there to come in there. So you can keep the plant open, but how do you get the labor? And there's just so many complex things here that right now, we still aren't at that end issue of it being a life-changing element for supply chain, for food. Medical supplies, a whole different story.
Yes.
But you think about, like, some of the biggest issues are you go to the grocery store and you don't have the same choices you had before.
Yeah.
You don't have the same volume of stuff that was there before. But from a supply chain standpoint, I have not read about anything where somebody's lost their life due to no supply chain for food and home necessities. Now, medical necessities and supply chain when it comes to masks, when it comes to gloves, disinfectants, hospitals, ventilators in particular, right? That whole supply chain, that is its own beast. And yes, that has caused potential or has caused loss of life.
Yes, yes. I was watching this one video of an onion farmer who had a whole just thing of onions in the field as he just dumped it there, and he said, you know what, I can't distribute this to people even though it's needed because the supply chain is a bridge, and from my product to you, that bridge has been severed. Even though you need it and I've got it, the bridge is gone.
Right, and the mechanism for that particular, I saw the same video.
Did you? Okay.
And that mechanism to get to market was, for them, a big part of their business was getting to restaurants.
Restaurants, yes.
Right, and you think about, okay, well, if I'm not going to eat in a restaurant, I'll go eat in a grocery store. Right, I'll go get my food from a grocery store. So they might as well send those onions to grocery stores. Well, it doesn't change that quickly. Right, it doesn't shift over. There's a process. There's who do I buy from? What are the contracts? How are they going to get distributed? What trucks are they going to be on? Which warehouse does it have to go to get to the store? All of that has to get worked out, and it's when it is flowing, we take it for granted. I'm using the term again, right? We take it for granted. We don't even see that as an issue. It's just it flows. But when you stop one portion, you say restaurants can't be open anymore. The net impact to the physical side of moving goods, let alone the economic impact, we're going to be seeing this for years, decades to come.
And it all comes down to what lag time between a new idea to implementation, right? And you've got, just like you said, it's shriveling up one end of that supply chain. So we directed all of our goods to the restaurants. That's got to shrivel up back here and then regrow that same mechanism to the grocery stores.
Absolutely. And interesting enough, by the time it gets to the grocery stores, very possible that restaurants are back open. And unfortunately, it's probably going to be different restaurants.
Yeah.
That's one of on the business side of this. Now, again, we're taking different we talk supply chain. We could talk some business elements. There's personal, there's health, there's just the loss of life and the spiritual side of that as well. But we're on the business side of it now, talking about losing business. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. While there are so many great restaurants that are going to be put out of business by this because not being ready to adapt to this, let alone the businesses who weren't going to succeed anyways, the restaurants that weren't. Nearly 50% of restaurants fail in the first year, right? That's that rough number. So that's kind of part of the process, is building the good business model. Out of this, though, there is the potential, and this is where I'm going to try to be optimistic.
Yes,
is that stronger business models may be created.
Implementing an online ordering system prior to the restaurant opening, have that part of the thought process as part of the new restaurant, right? And that's part of that new business model for a restaurant. Potentially, yeah.
Potentially. It definitely going to shift. And some are going to be ready for that shift, and they're going to step up. Some of the ones that are currently doing a fantastic job during this crisis, there's a whole generation of children and adults who have figured out their priorities of where their favorite place to eat is. And if they are able to survive this and weather through that storm, there's going to be a loyalty built into those brands, I think, for decades to come.
And it's funny because through the last couple of years, I've noticed brand loyalty going away, and the rise of, let's say, Amazon, and you can get cheaper products of the same decent caliber or similar caliber,
but choices
between it. So brand loyalty went away, but yeah, I do see brand loyalty going to come back, as far as this is a trusted entity or trusted business because they survived with us.
Yeah. And when I was going through so for me personally, food is a huge priority for me. And lately, my priority shifted to where I'm cooking a lot.
Cooking more, yes.
Right, but I love going out to a restaurant. I love eating out. I love somebody designing something for me, cooking, and it
takes the pressure off of you.
I don't have to do dishes.
And dishes. Yeah, the pressure of dishes.
But I derive pleasure from food. And so in this time, wherever I'm able to go out and experience something, I say go out, it's actually go pick something up, and bring it home. And if I bring it home and it brings me joy, it's that emotion that I'm probably going to remember.
Not so much the food, the emotion.
It's the emotion, and the food has to be part of that for me, but the emotion part of it, to where, going forward, 3 years, 4 years, 10 years from now, that I'm going to have that potential emotional bond with them and continue to go to those places.
So how have your priorities shifted then? On a personal note, we've gone the macro. Let's go to the micro, to you. How have your priorities changed?
Okay, so priorities changing. My priorities before the crisis, I am very much a lean manufacturing guy. And I teach it. I live it. I love it. I like bringing order to chaos. I like organizing things. I like getting rid of things that don't have value to me. And I'm saying things, but that is physical elements, that's time, that's people. I lean manufacture people. If you're not adding value to my life, if you're taking away and you're a negative person,
that's toxicity, toxic people,
I'm going to get rid of you from my life. I'm not going to spend time with you.
Yes.
Whereas, who am I spending time with? Strangely enough, the crisis has brought you, me, and my dad more together than we were before that. Before the crisis, and we're once a week we're meeting online.
FaceTime, or not FaceTime? What's Ring Central?
It's Ring Central. We've got a meeting app, and once a week we're spending an hour and a half, hanging out, just chatting, talking, and it's brought into crystal clear element that's a priority for me. I want to do that, right? Easter came around and we had a family thing where nobody could come together, and Easter's a big deal for our family. Every year we've got somebody's hosting, and we've got stuff going on. This year we couldn't do it the same way, but the priority was the family, so we used technology to help us do the same thing. And it was kind of cool, guys. We did a scavenger hunt where my wife and I were at home, and we're reading off the list, and people had to go from their camera to go pull stuff in and bring it in. So having fun and bringing people together, competition.
It's added in a layer of creativity to your life too. You've got to be creative with this technology. It's not the same old. We can't do an egg toss on the.
So here, this is interesting. That's really good. So egg toss. Those of you who are not familiar, we as a family take raw eggs and toss them and get further apart, right? Paired up teams, boom, 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 boom. I take it very seriously. There's a little trophy involved in it, and for decades now, over 20 years, this trophy has changed hands to the championship pair. You and I won at one point
year,
together. He's had other teammates as well, and he's won.
My cousin,
I've won with my wife, I think, one time. I had my niece. We've won a lot of times. So the whole point is, the egg toss is family fun. It's competition, And it is a vehicle for us to exhibit those priorities, that we like competition, we like friendly fun, we like to have an activity that we can do together. We couldn't do the egg toss through technology, at least we didn't figure out how to do it yet. So we took the priority of competition and family fun and used another vehicle, in this case, a scavenger hunt online for everybody to do at the same time. So that shared interaction, that's the priority. It just took a different vehicle to be able to accomplish it. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And it's all about utilizing other vehicles now, whether that be technology. On a personal note, right? You're by yourself, at least I am. My roommate's in his room, so it really leaves me the rest of the house. And being by myself, I've had to exhibit qualities like what you've seen. I like family, that togetherness. Well, I don't have that luxury, at least not at the office here, at home. So me writing down my thoughts, I've been journaling more, right?
Okay.
Writing down my thoughts, that way, at least for my emotional side of it, is if I can't experience talking to someone else, I can at least get the feeling of interacting.
So the priority, and this comes from your personality, right? We'll go back to DISC assessments, right? Your personality assessment, who you are as a person. You're on the C side, but you're like towards the center because there's a strong draw for you to be a people person, right? That is I see that grown up, you've grown up under my tutelage, right? I know that you want to be around people. You enjoy time off by yourself occasionally, but the majority of the time you want to be interacting with folks. That's where you thrive. And this crisis shifted that ability for you to be able to do that. And it sounds like you found other avenues to be able to express it.
Yes.
To some extent. Coming out of it, do you think your enthusiasm for spending time with other people will be amplified?
Right. I do think that, just because, you withhold something from someone for so long and you finally give it to them, they want it all.
Yeah.
Right? That is definitely probably going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm going to want to go out more, downtown Disney, maybe a bar or two here, right? Just be able to people watch, be able to experience life outside again.
And in those moments, to appreciate them for what they are.
Yeah.
Right? Because, okay, so back to the family, spending time with family, the Easter, spending time with you and my dad, right? Online, just being able to spend some time, even if it's through, this kind of media, through technology, to spend time with each other. Again, before this all happened, you might go a week, 2, 3 weeks, not talking to somebody in the family, right? A month goes by, and it's like, I'll get to it. Or
because you have that option.
Yeah, and you're thinking, I've got other things that are other priorities that I want to spend my time and do things. And there's this tug and pull. So something like this, where everything shuts down, hopefully you get to, and this is for you all as well, take an inventory of what your priorities are. And that way, when this crisis is removed, you're living your life through your priorities.
Right.
Why live it through things that just pull you all these different directions and all these different things?
I'm going to do it eventually. Living with that type of mentality versus this is focused, shifted your priorities to be more focused.
Absolutely. You mentioned journaling earlier as one thing that shifted for you. For myself, I mentioned the lean manufacturing, so 5S. I've got a YouTube video, guys.
I'll link to it down in the description.
Yeah, I had to look for my tech guy to make sure that happens. But with the 5S process, this was a life-changing thing for me. This isn't just something, again, that I teach. This is something that I live. And it's a step-by-step process to take clutter out of your life. And Marie Kondo, I think was her name. She was on, not YouTube, but she was on Netflix for a while. She was the lady who was like, there's a pair of jeans that you have to get rid of, that you thank them for doing their job, and you bless them and move them on their way. Right? She made it interesting.
It's to an elevated level of the 5S process.
But it is 5S. It's getting rid of clutter.
Right.
The first step is sorting, getting rid of the stuff that doesn't belong there. Now, you said journaling, you focus. For me, I've totally embraced my 5S stuff, and I have cleaned and organized and discarded things that have no value to.
So all the things in the dumpster, that was all just from you.
So the dumpsters. Okay, so yes, I did contribute. Yes, I absolutely contributed to the dumpsters. But I read an article, and this is over 6 weeks ago.
Okay.
So consider the first 2 weeks of the crisis.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
It just happened. It's like California, full lockdown, right? Supposedly, right? But we were told to stay home. There was some reports coming from the waste management industry. So all the people who are collecting the garbage, throwing away, that they had seen this huge spike in volume, and it was people throwing stuff away for the most part.
Right. You get other people that buy stuff and throw out the boxes, all that stuff.
Yeah, so some people, like, to cope with the crisis, that they're out purchasing things where they can, or they're purchasing it off Amazon, right?
Yeah,
And
online
so
shopping.
Now I've got Amazon, so I've got all these Amazon boxes that I have to discard.
So that adds to the excess clutter of the other stuff of discarding excess clothes and all that other stuff.
Yep.
And then you add on the Amazon packages.
So getting rid of that stuff has been part of my process, and I methodically go through and I'm organizing, and it's been really good from the standpoint of giving me something to do.
Right.
It's a hobby. I have plenty to do in terms of work, creating content, sharing information, teaching class. I'm still doing that, right? I'm teaching online.
Professor Chuck.
I have lots of stuff that's going on, but this was one thing that helped occupy that other bit of time for me. And it's been helpful. It's been helpful. So again, as a priority coming out of the crisis, I know how important this is to me. So organization and cleaning clutter and making things better and smoother and processes make sense, that's going to continue. So again, going back to priorities, thinking through this while you're journaling right now, and it's something as a tool that helping you cope with what's going on, it'll be interesting to see if 5 years from now that's the same case, that's something even without this, and you're on to the rest of your life, if it makes sense to record those thoughts.
I think there is a huge shift too, especially getting to know yourself, but myself, right? Me on a personal note, has been getting to understand, like we've been discussing, where are our priorities at? What do I find pleasure in? And to be honest, that's not really watching that much TV anymore. I watch maybe 30 minutes to maybe 10 minutes. That's like my max now.
Yeah. So, but let's not talk. But, so, how much YouTube do you watch?
YouTube is different. That's how do I call that? Market research.
Yeah, it is focused entertainment though.
It is,
because you're picking a genre, you're picking a topic, you're picking something that somebody's doing a deep dive into something like this.
Right.
This is a deep dive into self-awareness.
I derive from like Netflix and all of that as your mind just wanders, right? You're just getting entertained. But the stuff that I've been watching has been helping me, or I'll watch YouTube, like a do-it-yourself kind of video to help me, and it's actionable at that point.
Absolutely. Taking action even during today.
Exactly.
Even with lockdown, the stuff that you're looking at has a way of being able to be expressed today. You can take action on it. Very good. Very good. So let's wrap this up here a little bit with some thoughts about how to apply this. For the folks who are on the other end of the screen here, right, listening to us babble about our own personal experiences going through this, you're going through some stuff. And how do you cope with it, right? How do you go through that process of improving in the situation and then trying to find that light at the end of the tunnel of what am I going to learn from this and benefit from it? And crazy as that sounds, how do you benefit from a crisis? That it almost sounds selfish, but really that's the optimistic, hopeful side.
Right.
That even though this is something we have to go through, right? There's no changing it at this point. Yeah, there was some stuff that could have been done differently. Yeah, we could have been aware earlier. Yeah,
that's in retrospect.
You can't change that past piece of it. You can only go forward. And guess what? There's going to be other health crises. There's going to be other things that are going to come our way as a people, as a planet, as individuals. Crisis that we're going to have to deal with. What can we learn from going through this right now, being self-aware and focused on who we are as people, right? Who we are as teams, who we are as a group, and how do we make it better? So Again, I'll go back to this, taking a personal inventory of what your priorities are. This is the things that are of value to you. We've talked about family. We talk about communicating with other people. Myself, have talked about organizing my space, organizing my flow of people and processes and who I talk to. Talked about creating content, right? For us, it's getting our message out there. That's a priority for us. So the question for you is, what's your priority? What is important to you? What are you seeing as being critical to you being here on this planet and fully embracing who you are? Some of you, like we did, we took a self-assessment. We did that whole diagnostic of DISC to find out who we are based on who we say we are. And that has helped our conversation along the way about who we are as individuals. And again, as the last video was about the comparison report, who we are
together,
teams, right?
As a team, yes.
And that could be a tool for you as well. Could be simply journaling what's important to you now, getting your thoughts down now. And can you imagine reflecting back 5 years from now when this is all past and you're thinking back to who you were? What were you thinking right then at that moment? Journaling is going to help potentially do that as well.
Yes.
And talking to other people, right? Reaching out to other folks. No matter how isolated you are, if you're watching this video, you have the ability to reach out to other people, technology-wise, and to interact with the community around us and not take for granted the things that help us be humans.
Yes.
Right? That help us to thrive. We're talking about supply chain. We're talking about that person at the grocery store, checking it, that truck driver who just cut you off on the road. Guess what? That person's delivering something, right? That delivery can mean something on the other end of it. Don't take it for granted that these things are important and they're priorities around us and then within us.
Yes.
Wow, I was pontificating at the end there. You told me I wasn't allowed to do that, but I got to do it, so there you go. All right, folks, it has been a pleasure talking with you today. I hope you stay safe. Hope you and your family are able to get through this, and not only get through it, like, we got through it, but to thrive through this, to figure out your priorities, to be able to become more self-aware, and to be better humans and better citizens as we go forward. Thank you again. This is Professor Chuck.
And this is Chris.
And we'll see you next time.